Give 2 reasons why minus 7.3 is not a natural number. Reason number 1, it's a decimal. Reason number 2, it's a minus number. It's a decimal and it's a negative number. So there's 2 things wrong. Okay? So it's a minus number and it's a negative number. Sorry, just give me a second there. Okay, there we go, negative number. Right guys, now look at the following. The diagram represents the sets natural numbers n, integers z, rational numbers q, real numbers r. Insert each of the following into the correct place in the diagram. Well, first of all, number 6 is a natural number because number 6 hasn't got any decimals and it's positive and whole. Next one, an integer would be minus 8. Minus 8 is not a natural number, but it's an integer. Integers are whole numbers that are either positive or negative, like minus 4, like plus 4, like 5, minus 100. All of these are integers. Okay, next one, rational numbers. Rational numbers, Q, are numbers that can be expressed in fraction form. Example, minus 1/3, minus 2/3, minus 5 and 11/13, plus 100/20. Numbers like 8 can be expressed as 8/1. Numbers like 7, minus 7/1. So, numbers like this. So we have to figure out which ones are rational. Look at 7 to the power minus 1, put it into the calculator, using this button here. And what you find out about 7 to the minus 1 is it's a 7th. This means that it's a rational number and goes in here. Also, 1/3 goes in here as well, because it's also a fraction. Now that we've got rid of these numbers, we also have minus 4.5. Put minus 4.5 into the calculator, and what you'll see is it's also a rational number, because it can turn into a fraction. So minus 4.5 goes here as well, and 7/1. We're left with 2 numbers, root 2 and pi. Look at root 2 in the calculator. Root 2 cannot be expressed as a fraction. This means it's an irrational number, and therefore cannot go inside a Q. Root 2 is here. Finally, pi. Is pi a rational number? We'll find out. There's pi there. Can we change it into a fraction? No, we can't. Some people might argue, is pi not 22/7? And is 22/7 not a rational number? 22/7 isn't exactly the same as pi. It's an estimate. So 22/7, while it gives you a number close to pi, it's actually not pi. So therefore it doesn't count. So pi is an irrational number. Any questions? Move on. Okay, number 2. Oops. Spiders. Now, what we have here is the diagram below shows 3/5 of a rectangle. Complete the rectangle on the grid. So here's what you do. Count your blocks. How many blocks is it up? It's 6 blocks up, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 on the right. Now, basically, 3/5 of the length is 12. What's 1/5 of the length then? Divided by 3. Because to change 3/5 into 1/5, you divide by 3. And 1/5 of the length therefore is 4. What's the full length? Or 5/5 of the length then? Multiply 4 by 5 and we get 20. 20. Okay? Then 6. 3/5 of the width is 6. What's 1/5 of the width? Is it a bigger or smaller number? Smaller. By how much? 3 times smaller. Because 1/5 is 3 times smaller than 3/5. It goes to 2. Now we need the full length, which is 5/5 of the width, which is going to give us 10. You need to draw a rectangle 10 across and 20 up and 10 across. 10 across is located here. 20 up, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 is located here. Then it doesn't matter drawing this rectangle. And it should look something like this. There's your, here's a rectangle there. Okay, happy enough with that? Moving on. Now this question here is not easy. But while it is easy, it's actually sort of difficult the way they phrased it. Okay? Now what they're saying is 1/3 plus 2/6 does not equal 3/9. Well, look at this, okay? They're basically asking me a third. What is 2/6? A third. A third plus a third, and what's 3/9? They're asking me if a third plus a third is not equal to a third. It's 2/3, isn't it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade in a third here. How many boxes do I have in total? 9. So 3 boxes is worth a third. I'm going to shade in this part in the red. It's a third as well. So once again, 3 boxes is worth a third. And on the other one, which will be in green, 1 box is worth, 3 boxes is still worth a third. So there we have 3 boxes shaded in. That represents 3/9. Then we're going to add the blue box to the red box. And what we're going to get is this. The blue is worth 3. The red is also worth 3. And what we can see here is that 6 boxes does not equal 3 boxes. In essence, a third plus a third is the same thing as 3/9 plus 3/9. And 3/9 plus 3/9 does not equal 3/9. 6/9 does not equal 3/9. That's basically what's depicted on the graph when you shade it in. We have 6 blocks shaded in. 6 blocks do not equal 3 blocks. That's a bit of a weird question. Okay, moving on. Now, we've done this one before. This would have been in your summer test of second year. Okay, let's begin. Mary was going to America for a few months. She changed $1,200 into dollars using the exchange rate in the table. How many dollars did she receive? Okay, €1 equals. Sorry guys, €1 equals how much dollars? Anybody? 0.45. So she's going to change €1,200. So multiply it by 1,200 and tell me what the answer is. What do we get? 1,685.4. Now remember, it's money, so 0.40. The bank charged 3% commission on the transaction. How many dollars did she receive? 100% equals 100% of her money is this much. If she lost 3%, what percentage of the money did she receive? So we want to change 100% into 97%. You're going to divide by 100. When you divide by 100, what happens? You get 1%, and then you multiply it by 97 to get 97%. So let's see what happens here. Divide by 100, multiply by 97. Now we're going to round it off. 1,634.84. So what did it say again? 34.84. On returning to Ireland, Mary had $3,060. She changed this amount into euro. The bank again charged her 3% commission on the transaction. She received €2,047. Find the exchange rate on that day, corrected 2 decimal places. Alright guys, this is how much euro she received. Okay? The bank took away 3%. So what percentage does this represent? 97%, okay? We got to find out what is 100%. So how do we do that? Divide by 97, multiply by 100. So let's do that. 2047 divided by 97, multiply by 100. And what we get here is 2110.31. Okay? That's how much euro she should have got. Now what does this amount of euro equal in dollars on that day? This is how much euro she had before she... Sorry, what was I going to say? This is the amount of euro she would have got had the bank not charged her 3%. This amount of euro has to equal $3,060. Is everybody happy with that? Now how do you get the exchange rate? Divide them. So you're going to divide the dollars by the euro. Dollars divided by euro gives you how much 1 euro is in dollars. If you did a euro divided by dollars, what would that tell you? How much $1 is worth in terms of euro. So whichever one is on the bottom is the currency you're talking about. 1 euro equals. If I use this equation, it'll be $1 equals. Okay? So that's the difference. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide 3060. Now guys, can somebody give me an estimate of my answer? What should my answer be roughly? It should roughly be 1.4. Because currency doesn't change that much unless something drastic happens. So what happens when we divide them into each other? Do we get a number that is similar to that number there? I think that's a pretty good number, isn't it? 1.45. Exchange rate on the day was 1 euro equals $1.54. That's how you know what you're doing. Just compare the old rate to the new rate. It should be roughly the same. Moving on. Okay, moving on. David changed a certain amount of sterling into euro at the exchange rate in the table above. A few days later, he changed the same amount of sterling into euro at a different exchange rate. He received fewer euro this time. No commission was charged on the transaction. Write down one possible value for the exchange rate for the second transaction. Okay guys, here's what I would do if I had a question like this. This is what we call sort of an abstract question. How much, can somebody tell me the sterling rate in the table please? 1 euro is how much sterling? 0.8735. That one? Pounds. Okay? So, a certain amount. Let's call this certain amount 100 euro. If I exchange 100 euro, how much money do I get? 100 multiplied by 87.315. Oh yeah, that's a lot of money. Okay, so, and what we're going to get here is 87 euro 32 cents, let's say. So 87 euro 32 cents. We then exchange this back, and the question says he received fewer euro this time. Pick a number that's fewer than 100. 95? Or something a bit of a bigger gap than that far. So we'll go for 95 euro, okay? So this time we get 95 euro. How did you do the exchange rate this time? What did I say earlier? You divide euro on the bottom and pound on the top. Okay? Because you want to find out what is the new rate in terms of 1 euro. So you're going to get 87.32 divided by 95, and what happens here? .92, let's call it 919 or .919. Oh, sorry guys, I made a mistake here. Do you want to know the mistake? It wants to know what is a pound in terms of euro. What I got was euro in terms of pound. How do I fix that? Turn it upside down. So if I want the proper answer, it's going to be 95 divided by 87.32. And what do we get? The answer will be one sterling is equal to €1 and 1.088 euro. Okay? So that's our answer. That'd be an acceptable answer. Is that alright? Just replicate in real life what the question is telling you, and then you'll find out you're right. Is that right? Now, moving on. A soccer team has 3 strikers. The number of minutes each has played by the end of a particular season is shown on the table. The team is dividing the bonus of €1,500 between the strikers in a proportion of the time each is played. So here's the proportion, alright? You got to remember about ratios is, we've done ratios recently enough. Here's a ratio. 2,250 is to 2,600 is to 150. What we got to do when we have ratios is we add all the ratios together. And what happens when we add them all together? We get 5,000. So when we get this 5,000, okay, what you got to realise is that you're receiving a fraction of each amount. So 5,000 it is. So the first person played 2,250 minutes out of the 5,000. That's the fraction it will receive of the bonus. This one will also receive 2,600 out of 5,000. And the last one is 150 out of 5,000. Calculate the amount each player received. See each of these fractions, guys? Multiply each of these fractions by 1,500. So can somebody do the first one for me? Who has a calculator handy? Jack, do the first one. Dennis? Oh, sorry, Oscar. Do the second one. Owen, do the third one, please. Okay. So, Jack, you're on John. How much did John get? Multiply John by 150,000. Okay, that's perfect. Who's got Paul? Oscar, that's yourself. What do you get? So multiply this by 150,000 and he gets 78,000. That's perfect. And Michael? 4,500. Now guys, what should all these numbers add up together to be? Exactly, and they do. Okay? So there we go. Thank you very much. Okay? Now, moving on. And we're just going to rip this out. Now, what we have next is, at the end of the following season, a larger total bonus was played. Our answer is expected to be what, guys? Bigger than 150,000. That's what that tells us. That's what that line tells me. At the time, John said the bonus should be paid according to the number of goals scored by the striker. Paul scored 50% more than, so we're going to go Paul, Michael, and who's the other guy? John. Now guys, do we know how much goals? Let's start off with the smallest. Who scored the least amount of goals? Michael. Okay. Michael scored X amount of goals because we don't know how many goals he scored. How much did Paul score then? What's a 50%? What's a 50% bigger number than X? Can anybody tell me? Okay, let's think of this another way. If I gave you the number 10 and I asked you to get a number that's 50% bigger than that, what would you do? You divide by 2 and multiply by 3. To add 50% onto 10, you would say, okay, I got to half it and add it on. Another way of doing it would be to divide by 2 and multiply by 3. And you also get 15. If I gave you the number 60 and asked you to increase that by 50%, what would you tell me the answer is? 90. You divide by 2, multiply by 3. If I give you x, what's 1.5 times x? Basically 1.5x, isn't it? Or 3 over 2x. Now guys, John says he's scored as many as both of them together. How much did John score then? He scored x plus 1.5x, which is, anybody? He scored 2.5x. Now let's leave it at this, okay? Calculate the total bonus offer on that season. John got 140,000. Would you agree with that? John scores 2.5x goals. His 2.5x goals is worth 140,000. How much is x goals worth on its own? Divide it by, anybody? And what you get? 56,000. So now we know what John is worth and we know what Michael is worth. How do we find out what Paul was worth? Multiply by 1.5 to find out how much Paul is worth. And when we do that, we get 84,000. Add them all together and what do we get? So we're going to add 84,000 plus 56,000 plus 140,000. 280,000. That means he's worth 280,000. How much would Paul and Michael get under John's system? Well, I already have it done. Paul gets 84,000 and Michael gets 56,000.